Right now, though, there has been, as you've been hearing in the news, a high number of apartment fires in Winnipeg lately, with 3 apartment fires last week alone on Yonge Street, Toronto Street, and the latest on Main Street on Friday night. Now, no one was seriously hurt, but the fires changed people's lives, and many of them left residents displaced. James Zepp and his wife were forced out of their home after a fire broke out in their building on Furby Street last month. Now, luckily, the couple was able to stay with a family immediately after the fire, and they've since moved into a new apartment. But James says that many of his former neighbors haven't been so lucky, and he wants the province's help to make sure that no one else has to go through what they did. And I'm really grateful that he's made some time to be in studio. Good morning, James.
Yes, good morning, Marcy.
I'm sorry for what happened to you.
Well, it happens.
Yeah. Well, what do you remember about it? Was it stressful? Did you have to run out? I mean, few of us ever. We should be so lucky to not ever have to deal with this.
Well, 3:00 in the morning, the alarms went off, and we all went, and it was pretty freaky. As a result, there were 5 people taken to hospital.
Yeah.
One person, the last time I checked on her a week and a half ago, she was still in intensive care. And she's since, I don't know what's happened to her, whether she's passed on or whether she's been moved to somewhere else, but she's no longer in the hospital, so we have no way of finding out what happened.
Part of this is also, we mentioned that, this is about loss of community, and you're checking up on your neighbors in hospital. That's a good example. Where did some of the other residents, end up after the fire?
Scattered to the 4 winds, north end, east end, just all over town. We didn't want to leave the area. My wife had lived in the building for 20 years. I've been 15. Up until September, the previous 7 years, I was caretaker. So not only had, knew the people and friends with them, and I have to say the sense of community in the building was unlike anything I've ever seen. And made friends that are lifelong friends, and it's a little tough.
To find out that you weren't able to go back to living there because of the state of the place.
Well, our personal situation, we were geographically, our suite on the main floor was the furthest away from the fire, which was on the 4th floor at the other end of the building. So we had 0 damage to any of our goods. But the
state of the overall building wasn't safe, I understand, potentially. Or actually, I should ask specifically, I shouldn't say I'm reading a lot about this. What reasons did they give you about why, you couldn't go back to live in that building?
Well, initially we were told that it was going to take them 4 to 6 months to redo the electrical system because the water poured down on the electrical panels and shorted them all out.
Got it.
And they said it would be a good year before anybody could ever move back in. And none of the tenants that I've talked to, which is most of them, have any plans on ever moving back.
Where have they been able to find places to go? Like, what's the reality of trying to find a place that's comparable in terms of affordability and such, and staying in the neighborhood?
That wasn't the issue near so much. It was the lack of time. Because, as you're probably aware, when the owner of the building put in the insurance claim on February 12th, that the building became the property of the insurance company. So no one except the designated agent for the insurance company, they got to make the rules. And
so how are you feeling about the fact that you're not going to be able to live there? That you're in this other apartment. I should ask, how has your life changed now that you're in another place?
Well, we don't have any daily contact other than texting or phone calls with, we don't get to see. I think I'm the only one that's out in, Fort Richmond or even, south of that actually. So it's caused a bit of a hole in our lives because the building was darn important to us.
Have you been able to go back to get your belongings?
Yes, I was able to. That was part of the problem caused by the insurance company. I need to harp on them because they're the ones who made the situation immeasurably worse. For example, if you were a misbehaving tenant in the building and you'd been warned and they decided to terminate your lease, you would have the rest of that month plus another full month to find an apartment, move out and be all squared away. We were informed on the morning of the 12th that they wanted everything out of the apartments by the 23rd of the month. And we're the innocent victims in this case. And
was there assistance given to, if I can interject, was there assistance given to people who were told that and weren't able to move their belongings themselves or couldn't afford the help?
Well, by the Monday of the week of the 23rd, due to pressure, the lady in charge of the building relented and allowed us to stay in until the 29th. And it was quite clear that any goods left in the suite after the 29th would be removed to the garbage.
What reason were you given for the tight timeline, if any?
None. And to make matters worse, we had no access on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday. So we're 5 days in there, the 2 weekends, including the long weekend.
And you couldn't get in.
Where you couldn't even access the building.
What's your message this morning in terms of what you hope would change to better support people who were displaced by the fire?
Well, at the very least, considering that there was no major building damage such that, everybody had to get their stuff out quickly because it wasn't safe, they're going to be in there for a full year working on it. Why could they not give us at least the bare minimum, which, according to the Office of the Residential Tenancies Branch, would range between 31 and 60 days notice that you would get? Well, we had 18 days, less 5 days of where we weren't allowed in the building on the weekends, and the answer given by Allison from Winnipeg Furniture Store, who was the designated agent, her answer was, we don't work weekends. So we had 8 to 4 Monday to Friday to get everything done. And that was, so our 18 days went down to 13. And the folks on the upper floors could use the stairs to get into their suites, but they'd have to do that because the elevator wasn't working again until the Friday. So they had basically 9 days and some of the tenants walked away from everything.
Thank you for highlighting all of the problems that have been happened because of how this tragedy unfolded for you. I'm sorry for what you've been going through. We appreciate having you in our studio.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's bigger than just me. I mean, I don't want this to kind of thing. There's nothing that they can do now that's going to affect what we're doing. But
we'll certainly follow through, though, James. Former resident of 85 Furby, the apartment block's 40 or so residents were forced to leave their homes in a fire last month. For your latest headlines, go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.